Hey, it's Mr. Green, aka Beethoven Boy, and today we're going to look at the major scale. Make sure you watch my other two videos, intervals 1 and 2. I'll put a link somewhere here. Okay, that is going to help you as we move on. Let's start with the question though, why should we learn the major scale? Why is it so important? There's a gajillion other scales. There's a gajillion other styles and musicians and people are into all kinds of things, whether it's rap, rock, jazz, Motown, dance room music, EDM, okay, even old 17th century Germany music. All these styles have at their root the major scale as a foundation or a basis. And if you're a musician in any kind of sort, whether you're performing or producing, this is just one of those things you have to know. Okay, and it's gonna help you. All right, let's get started.
Everybody know, everybody.
The major scale, we're gonna start with the note C. And the reason why we start with C is because we're gonna look at a piano. It's very easy to visualize the major scale. In fact, the major scale is built into the piano in a really nice way. Starting on the letter C, all the white notes form the major scale. So let's write them out. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we repeat to C. One observation you should make is that every letter is used and only used one time, okay, until you get to the octave, then it just repeats. But you will never have two G's. You won't have a G sharp and a G natural. You won't have an A flat and an A sharp. Doesn't happen. There's only 7 different letters. Now let's look at the distance between each of these notes. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. E to F, half step. F to G, whole step. G to A is a whole step. A to B is a whole step. And then finally we finish B to C is a half step. Some people talk about these as tones. One tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. That's fine, whatever works for you. So this is the formula to build the major scale. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. If you notice, there's only 2 half steps. Okay, some people prefer to just highlight those 2 half steps. So the half step will be there and the half step will be there. Everything else is whole steps. Okay, so if I start on any different note, I could use the same formula and come up with my major scale. Let's pick one out. Let's start on G. Step 1, go ahead and write out all the letters. Every letter gets used and it only gets used once. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay, so we're already partway there. Now we just have to apply the formula, or we can check and make sure that we're okay. We can go ahead and add our half step. 1, 2, 3. We know this has to be a half step. 4, 5, 6, 7. In between 7 and 8 has to be a half step. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at these intervals. G to A, is that a whole step? Yes. Okay, we're good. A to B, is that a whole step? Yes. B to C, is that a half step? Yes. There's no black key on the piano between B and C, so it's a half step. C to D, is that a whole step? Yes. So far we're doing good. D to E, is that a whole step? Yes. E to F, is that a whole step? No. Okay, so here's where we have to make a change. This is only a half step, E to F. I have to make this interval bigger. Now I cannot change the letter name, but I can add an accidental. I can sharp the F to make the distance between E and F bigger, to go from a half step to a whole step. So we sharp the F, whole step. Oops, I used black. That's okay. Then F sharp to G, is that a half step? It is. And that is our G major scale. Let's do another one. Let's start on F. Okay, if I want to build an F major scale, the first thing I need to do is just simply write out all the letters going back to F. So F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and then finally we'll return to F. Okay, we notice every letter is used and it's only used once till we get back to the octave. Now let's go ahead and add in our little half steps. We know half steps occur between the third and fourth part of the scale and between the seventh and the eighth, or the 1 if you want to look at it that way. So 1, 2, 3, 3 and 4. We know we need to have a half step there. 4, 5, 6, 7. Between 7 and 8 there has to be a half step. Everything else is whole steps. Now let's start from the left and work our way over. If you do it from the any other way in the middle of the scale, you will end up with something wrong. Okay. F to G, is that a whole step? Yes, that's a whole step. G to A, is that a whole step? Yes, it is. A to B, is that a half step? No. This is where I have to make a decision. I need to make this smaller. Now, I've already told myself F to G is a whole step, G to A is a whole step, so we're good. We don't want to touch this. Once I touch this, it's going to ruin all of those. So we're good on the A. I have to do something to the B. Okay, it is a whole step right now, but I needed half. So all I have to do is make that flat. B flat. Now I have the half step. Let's keep moving on. B flat to C, is that a whole step? Yes, it is. C to D, is that a whole step? Yes, it is. D to E, is that a whole step? Yes, it is. And then finally, E to F, is that a half step? Yes, it is. So in the key of F major, there is only one flat, B flat. One little trick to take away from this is that if you have any flat in the key, there can only be flats. If there's a sharp somewhere, there can only be sharps. You cannot mix sharps and flats when we build these major scales. Other kinds of scales, synthetic scales and stuff, we can have multiple things. But for the major scale, you will either have all flats or all sharps. Or in the case of C major, all naturals. You will never mix them up. That's the major scale. Here are the steps you should remember when building a major scale. Number 1, write out all the letters. Number 2, every letter is used and it's only used once. Those are kind of the same thing, but you'd be surprised people will mess this up quite often. You can't have a G and a G sharp. You only get one G, okay? Next step, number 3, apply the formula. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. Okay. If you need to make the interval bigger, use a sharp. If you need to make the interval smaller, use a flat. And don't forget the 2 tricks you have. You can mark out the 3rd and 4th intervals, you know those are half steps, and the 7th and 8th intervals are also half steps. That's a little bit easier than having to memorize all this, okay? The second trick is if there's a flat somewhere in there, there can only be other flats. If there's a sharp, there can only be other sharps. Can't mix and match. You will be awesome if you memorize this and do all this. You will never fail on your major scale. If any of this is confusing or you have more questions, that's okay. Leave a comment or a suggestion. I will try to get to you, and I hope you do awesome with building your major scales. Beethoven Boy, I'll see you next time.